The story begins with Makoto standing in a dark, unfamiliar place, unsure whether he is dreaming. He notices the sacred stone in his hand glowing with an unfamiliar color. A black feather falls in front of him, and when he looks up, he sees a woman with large black wings floating in the air. Before reaching this moment, the story returns to its origin. In a distant realm, demons and divine spirits ruled as opposing forces. Their endless war destroyed the world until the demons claimed victory. 10 years ago, they turned toward the human world. Humans, weak and unprepared, faced extinction as demon armies invaded. In response, divine spirits appeared, granting humans courage and divine strength. Through sacred stones, humans formed bonds with the spirits and gained power. Those chosen became hunters, holding humanity's future. 10 kilometers outside Tokyo, a group of hunters gathers before a glowing gate. Rank D hunters Hino, Kamaya, and Mito prepare for an E-rank dungeon. They check their equipment and turn to Makoto Asuka, an F-rank hunter who carries their supplies. Makoto quietly confirms everything is ready. The others tease him for not being a real fighter, but he remains silent. 2 years earlier, Makoto received his sacred stone and believed he had become a true hunter. His determination grew from a past gate break in which demons killed his parents. The stone gave him hope that he could grow strong enough to prevent another tragedy. A year later, during training in a park, others mock him for still not having a spirit despite 2 years of waiting. Makoto continues practicing silently. Later, a man throws him into a trash bin, telling him to stop pretending to be a hunter without a divine spirit. Rejected by both hunters and ordinary people, Makoto continues training alone, unsure why his stone never responded. In the present, inside the dungeon, Hino's lower-ranked spirit burns monsters, while Mito attacks from a distance and Kamaya fights alongside his spirit. Once the monsters fall, a hidden demon targets Makoto. He dodges and attempts to fight, but his attacks do nothing. Hino destroys the demon and reassures him, while Makoto thanks him, believing the words are just sympathy. They soon reach the deepest room. Hino mentions demons with special habits. While Makoto listens, Kamaya and Mito restrain him. They open the gate and push him inside as bait for the E-rank boss, the behemoth. They leave him locked in a room, calling him a fake hunter. Inside, Makoto realizes their betrayal too late. The behemoth awakens and attacks. He escapes briefly, but the exit collapses. Cornered and unable to fight back, Makoto faces death without achieving anything. At that moment, the sacred stone glows with dark energy. A burst of black light forms a shadow barrier, pulling Makoto into another realm. The stone now shines with a darker hue. A winged woman appears and reaches out her hand, asking him to form a pact. Makoto accepts, believing she is his divine spirit. Their bond forms, dark energy entering his stone, and the realm fades. Back in the dungeon, Makoto faces the behemoth again. His movement is faster, but he does not know what powers he gained. He calls to the spirit, who explains the power of Rebellion Shadow, allowing him to control shadows freely. Concentrating, Makoto forms a long blade of dark energy. He prepares to fight, acknowledging that this is enough. The behemoth charges. Makoto cuts through its tail with a single strike. The monster reels back and sees a dark figure behind him. Makoto pushes forward, reshaping his shadow weapon midair to extend its range, striking the creature's limbs from a distance. As the behemoth collapses, Makoto realizes the weapon can change shape freely. Facing the wounded monster, Makoto leaps again, recalling all the times his teammates mocked him, calling him useless, fake, and incapable of forming a pact. Now he finally understands they were wrong. His sword reshapes into a massive cleaver, and he feels as if his entire struggle has led to this moment. With a single decisive strike, he splits the behemoth in two, its body falling lifeless to the ground. Makoto stands stunned, unable to believe the power he now holds. His weapon dissolves, and, breathing heavily, he sinks to the floor, overwhelmed with relief and satisfaction at defeating a demon at last. Exhausted, he He looks at his sacred stone and asks the winged woman if they can speak. Shadows rise from the stone, and she appears before him. He thanks her sincerely, acknowledging that she saved him, but she replies that she merely lent her power and that the victory was his. Makoto insists on thanking her again, relieved that she accepted the pact. Observing him quietly, he praises her abilities, believing that the power to command shadows must belong to a high-ranking divine spirit. After all, defeating an E-rank boss should not be possible with anything less. She hesitates before revealing the truth. She is not a divine spirit at all, but a demon. Makoto freezes in shock, unable to process the revelation. Demons have slaughtered countless divine spirits and nearly destroyed humanity. Hunters exist solely to fight them, forming pacts with divine spirits to stop the threat. Now he stands with a demon as his partner. He asks her again, needing answers, but before she can explain, the boss room door creaks open. Voices enter, assuming he must have been eaten by now. Mito confidently claims he's probably inside the boss's stomach, but they all fall silent when they see him alive. Makoto demands answers while his teammates stare in disbelief, trying to understand how he survived and where the boss is. Hino realizes he must have formed a pact. Kamaya panics, asking what they should do, and Hino curses, knowing that if Makoto reports this betrayal, their careers are over. The three activate their divine powers and prepare to kill him. Makoto calls out to the woman, asking her name. Surprised, she introduces herself as Rinoa. He tells her that is enough for now and asks for her power again. Startled by his determination, she agrees, and he summons his shadow sword. Hino tries to rally the group, calling Makoto weak and insisting they finish him quickly. Before they can attack, Hino's divine spirit Flama interrupts, questioning if he really intends to fight Makoto's spirit head-on. Hino asks if it is afraid, but Flama calls him foolish for not noticing how abnormal Makoto's pact is. Mito's divine spirit admits it has never encountered anything like it, while Kamaya's spirit says that Makoto's pact exists on an entirely different level. Shocked, Hino asks Flama what kind of spirit Makoto has formed a bond with. Flama explains that its exact identity is unclear, but the power resembles that of a top-class divine spirit. The revelation stuns the group. Makoto looks at Rinoa, now understanding the implications. Divine spirits are ranked lower, middle, upper, and top class, with only a rare few reaching the highest rank. These are considered the strongest among all spirits. Curious, Makoto asks Rinoa who she truly is, but she directs his attention forward. Following her gaze, he sees Hino preparing to strike while flames gather around him. Hino refuses to believe Makoto could surpass him, reasoning that since the pact is newly formed, Makoto must still be weak and has only defeated one boss. Mito notes that hunters do grow stronger by defeating demons, but it isn't certain how far that strength has progressed. Kamaya argues that if Makoto truly has a top-class spirit, they will not last long in a fight against him. Hino calls them cowards, charging straight at Makoto with flames swirling around him. He throws a flurry of flaming punches, but Makoto sidesteps each one easily, barely exerting effort as though he already knows where the strikes will land. When Hino unleashes a powerful punch, enhanced by Flame's spirit breath, Makoto cuts through the flames with a single slash of a shadow sword, shocking the others. Makoto mocks Hino, asking if he is holding back, which only enrages him further. Hino accuses him of relying on luck, claiming his newfound strength is just the result of forming a pact. Makoto clenches his teeth, insisting that what he has now is not luck. He endured years of failure without ever giving up. Infuriated, Hino unleashes an even stronger surge of flames, shouting that he will burn Makoto to ashes with his secret technique. He orders his team to fight with him, reminding them that if they do not kill Makoto now, they are as good as dead. Trembling, Mito activates her divine power, reluctantly agreeing that they have no choice. Kamaya, equally tense, curses under his breath and joins in. Hino activates Flame Spirit's Roar, Mito calls upon Water Spirit's Grand Archer, and Kamaya summons Thunder Spirit's Great Spear. Their special skills strike together, creating a massive explosion that shatters the ground and sends clouds of smoke and debris through the air. As the smoke begins to clear, Mito nervously wonders if they went too far, while Hino laughs triumphantly, insisting that trash remains trash in the end. When the dust settles, their confidence fades. Makoto stands unharmed, explaining calmly that he cut through their attacks and that the boss had been far faster than anything they can offer. He steps forward and asks if they are finally ready to face him. Hino freezes when he sees Rinoa's gaze reflected in Makoto's eyes. Forcing himself to move, he summons flames and warns Makoto not to challenge him, hurling fireballs while calling him a pathetic wannabe hunter. Makoto lowers his stance and dodges each flame as he rushes forward. Closing the distance, Hino tries to speak, but Makoto conceals his shadow weapon, then strikes directly with a punch to Hino's stomach, sending him flying and coughing blood. Looking down at him, Makoto states firmly that he is a hunter. Hino crashes to the ground near his teammates and collapses, trembling. Makoto orders the three of them to take Hino and leave, warning them not to speak of what happened. In panic, Mito and Kamaya pull Hino away and flee. When the dust finally settles, Makoto's sacred stone glows and Rinoa appears, quietly commenting that she never expected him to resort to punching Hino. He replies that cutting him down was unnecessary and thanks her for supporting him during the fight. She smiles warmly, and he reminds her that they were in the middle of an important conversation. She nods as he asks her to explain how she is a demon rather than a divine spirit. With a serious expression, Rinoa clenches her hands and prepares to explain. She says she was once a divine spirit from the angel race, but after a certain event, she fell from grace and became a demon. Makoto listens, surprised, noting to himself how unexpected it is since angels are among the highest-ranking spirits, and the idea of one becoming a demon is hard to believe. She continues, explaining that her past as a divine spirit is the reason she is still able to form a pact, though she does not know why her sacred stone ended up with him. Makoto acknowledges that the situation feels strange, but says he understands. Rinoa admits that no matter how she hides it, she is still a demon, and offers to end the pact if he feels uneasy. Her voice wavers slightly as she grips her arm, which Makoto notices. He sighs, sits beside her, and introduces himself properly as Makoto, an 18-year-old hunter. Rinoa is surprised, asking why he suddenly chose to introduce himself, but he explains that he knows she is not a bad person and has no intention of canceling the pact. She's stunned at first, but eventually smiles when he says this is his way of showing he's counting on her. Calling him a strange human, she accepts. He smiles back, stands up, and suggests they return together. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, two demons observe from afar. One mocks Rinoa for betraying them, while the other laughs it off, saying it doesn't affect their plans. The first one only smirks, finding it entertaining. Back in Tokyo, Makoto returns to his small apartment and opens the door to room 3003. The interior is simple, a bed, a small table, and a few boxes. He tells Rinoa to sit wherever she wants. She looks around, unimpressed, saying it's hard to believe humans live like this. Makoto asks what's wrong, and she says it reminds her of demon caves, basic shelters just meant to block wind and rain. He laughs and says it's only a place to sleep before asking if she has any preferences. After thinking, she says she likes beautiful scenery. Noticing her looking toward the window, he suggests adding flowers there. She agrees, saying the idea suits his taste. He then proposes buying a new flower every time they clear a dungeon, which makes her smile. Feeling tired, he heads to bed. When he tries to lie down, Rinoa lies there too, commenting that the bed is small for two people. Makoto blushes and asks if she plans to sleep next to him. She explains that sharing beds is normal in the angelic realm. He asks if divine spirits even need sleep, and she admits she isn't sure. He tells her to return to her sacred stone instead. She agrees, says goodnight, and disappears. Makoto stares at the stone briefly before lying down and thinking about the consequences of forming a pact with a demon. If anyone finds out, he's done for. For now, he decides to move solo and tackle an F-rank dungeon he can handle alone. The next day at the Japanese Hunter Association, he enters with Rinoa hidden in his glove. He asks if she feels any pressure, but she says she's fine and praises his idea to hide the purple stone since it would attract attention. He heads to the counter to register for an F-rank dungeon, but before he finishes, the entire hall erupts as the famous S-rank hunter Amagi, Yugo, walks in drinking alcohol casually. Hunters rush him for autographs while he laughs about how lively the place is. Yugo notices Makoto and approaches him. Makoto immediately recognizes him and freezes as Yugo asks for his name and rank. Makoto confirms he's Makoto Ose, an F-rank hunter. Yugo tilts his head, doubtful, and asks again if he's really F-rank. Makoto asks why he's asking, and Yugo says he has his reasons. He then turns to the assistant, apologizes for interrupting, and casually invites her for tea before leaving. As he walks away, he calls out that he and Makoto will meet again. The assistant is left speechless, excited just from being acknowledged, while Makoto wonders if he was just approached by a top-tier legend for no reason. He finishes his registration, takes the coordinates, and leaves, still confused but reminding himself to focus on his first solo dungeon clear, even if it's only F-rank. Upon reaching the dungeon gate, he double-checks the location and enters. Inside, the atmosphere feels heavier than usual. Rinoa asks if F-rank demons are really supposed to be the weakest, and he confirms while asking if she senses something off. Suddenly, something large charges at him. He quickly summons his shadow, sword to block, but the force sends him flying backward. He stands up, shaken, and Rinoa checks if he's fine. He sees the creature clearly now, a chaos wolf, which is D rank. Rinoa states that the dungeon isn't normal. Makoto realizes he may have entered the wrong dungeon entirely. The wolves surround him, and the exit gate seals shut. Rinoa notes that he understands the danger, and he acknowledges that handling them all at once will be tough. She retreats into the sacred stone so she won't distract him. He extends the length of his sword and prepares to cut down their numbers first. He charges at one wolf, but another attacks from behind. He dodges, but a third lands a hit and knocks him to the ground. Observing their movements, he realizes they are coordinated and wait for small openings. Rinoa watches from the stone, thinking aloud while telling him to pay close attention. Makoto develops a risky plan. He deactivates his weapon, intentionally exposing himself to lure them in. Rinoa is alarmed, knowing one mistake could be fatal. The wolves leap together, and at the last second he reactivates his shadow sword, cutting through multiple wolves in a single strike. He stares at the sword, relieved the plan worked. Rinoa reappears and praises how he used his weakness as bait. He laughs breathlessly, admitting he wasn't sure it would work. They question why the dungeon feels stronger than expected and conclude it's actually D rank. Even though it's above his level, he continues since the gate won't open until the boss is defeated. Movement echoes again, and more wolves appear. Makoto's patience wears thin. He just finished fighting a group, and now another pack spawns like a game set to hard mode. Rinoa returns to the sacred stone, saying things are different now, and instructs Makoto to try something new. She tells him to raise his hand, focus on shadow chains, and aim at a wolf. When he does, chains of darkness shoot forward and wrap around the wolf. She explains that this ability is called Shadow Bind and is meant to restrain enemies. Makoto pulls the wolf toward him and slices it cleanly. Another wolf charges from behind, but he casts Shadow Bind again, grabs the chain with his other hand, and swings the creature into the others. The wolves scatter, and Makoto laughs to himself, realizing how enjoyable this new ability is. Rinoa praises him, but warns that Shadow Bind drains magic quickly. He nods, confident that with this ability, he can push forward. After a long fight, he plants his shadow sword into the ground and exhales, looking at the pile of defeated wolves. He feels proud that he isn't tired, and Rinoa remarks that hunters grow stronger by defeating demons and that his endurance is improving. He looks at his hands with a sense of progress before signaling that it's time to continue. As they move deeper, Rinoa observes quietly, impressed by how quickly he adapts. His quick decisions and instinctive reactions reinforce her belief in his potential. Eventually, they reach the deepest part of the dungeon, where a massive gate stands. Makoto pauses as his heartbeat quickens. Rinoa appears beside him and asks what's wrong. He admits he's nervous but excited since clearing dungeons and proving strength is what being a hunter is about. She reminds him it's only the beginning. He pushes open the gate, steps inside, and closes it behind him. The air grows heavier as he faces the dungeon boss, a towering hell scorpion with a massive stinger raised and ready. Its armor glints like hardened minerals, making him wonder if it's tougher than steel. Rinoa senses his concern and asks if he's scared. He denies it, blaming his reaction on battle tension. The scorpion lunges, slamming its tail into the ground and creating a crater where he stood moments earlier. Makoto dodges and quickly realizes how precise and deadly its attacks are. A large claw comes next, and he blocks it with his shadow sword before climbing up the arm and striking downward. The attack leaves no mark, confirming how durable the armor is. The scorpion twists violently as he jumps back to a safer distance, focusing on its movements while knowing every tough armor has weak points. Rinoa watches silently as Makoto continues attacking, aiming at its arms and tail, but he still fails to leave a scratch. He uses all his strength in a blow to the head, but the surface remains untouched. The scorpion roars and unleashes a shock wave that forces him to cover his ears from the painful vibration. Its tail then shifts into crystal spikes that fire toward him like bullets. He retreats quickly, feeling some graze his skin, frustrated that the creature now has long-range attacks as well. He calls to Rinoa for help, and she explains that in his current state damaging the creature is nearly impossible, meaning he must surpass his limits. The scorpion charges again, but Makoto reacts fast, using Shadowbind to restrain its arms and slam it into the wall hard enough to shake the cavern. He realizes that taking that hit directly would have ended the fight instantly. As the scorpion turns, he notices a crack on its head, realizing that blunt force may be more effective than slashing. The beast charges faster than before, and Makoto dodges while thinking through his options. He considers resizing his sword before abandoning the idea. Cutting won't solve the problem. Rinoa calls to him, reminding him of his first time using his shadow weapon, and he understands immediately. Remembering how he won his previous fight, he prepares as the scorpion charges with both claws ready to crush him. He leaps into the air, and Rinoa warns that he can't dodge midair. The scorpion fires another barrage of spikes, but instead of retreating, Makoto uses Shadowbind to pull himself forward through them. Covering his head, he pushes onward and midair transforms his shadow sword into a massive hammer. With one decisive strike, he slams it onto the scorpion's head, finally bringing it down. Breathing heavily, he relaxes as Rinoa admits she had been stubborn about not giving a direct hint. He laughs, saying they're both alike, while she explains that the shadow weapon can take many forms besides a sword. He's relieved he figured it out from her hint and jokes that she could have just told him earlier. She reminds him that learning by doing is part of his growth, and he agrees. She adds that unexpected situations accelerate growth as well, saying it would be nice if they happened more often. He hopes not, and they leave the dungeon. The next day, at the Tokyo Hunter Association, an assistant repeatedly apologizes for the ranking mix-up. Makoto tells her it's fine and that he learned a lot from it. She asks him to confirm his payment, and he freezes when he sees 1,500,000 yen. She explains that clearing a D-rank dungeon solo earns that amount, and says she hopes to work with him again, calling him Mr. Hunter, which leaves him quietly pleased. Walking outside, he tells Rinoa that they should finally buy flowers for their apartment. She agrees, and Makoto smiles, thinking he can easily afford the best bouquet now. Just then he senses a familiar presence passing by and stops. A woman calls his name, and he turns to see Ryuka Kazan, his childhood friend, smiling brightly as she greets him and asks how he has been. Makoto tells her he finally formed a pact with a divine spirit and has been working hard. Ryuka congratulates him enthusiastically, saying she always believed he could reach this point. People nearby begin whispering in surprise, shocked that the rising star Ryuka Kazan is speaking with someone they consider a wannabe hunter. Makoto scratches his neck awkwardly while Rinoa grows curious. He explains that Ryuka is a former childhood friend and a top-ranked hunter known for her overwhelming potential. At the same time, he recalls her strong hatred toward demons, stronger than anyone he has ever met, which makes him uncertain about how things will develop from here. Ryuka has been close to Makoto since childhood. They grew up together, shared experiences, and maintained their bond even as they got older. Everything changed when demons erupted across the world, destroying cities without effort. During the chaos, a group of demons pursued Ryuka and her older brother. After being injured by a demon's attack, her brother realized the situation was beyond recovery and turned back to hold them off, telling Ryuka to escape. She hesitated, wanting to stay, but he insisted. Before the moment could end, the monster struck again, and he barely managed to block the attack. The demon's power was far beyond human ability, and Ryuka watched helplessly as her brother was crushed in front of her. That memory stayed with her. Years later, around 2 years ago, both Makoto and Ryuka received their sacred stones. Makoto apologized at the time, explaining that his divine spirit had still not appeared, making it impossible to keep their promise of fighting together. Ryuka maintained a calm expression, saying she understood but couldn't wait indefinitely. She turned away and joined the Hunter Association, moving onward without him. In the present, the two sit together in a bright cafe, a sharp contrast to the battles they've experienced. Ryuka enthusiastically recommends the parfait and compliments Makoto for clearing a D-rank dungeon alone right after forming his pact. He reminds her that he is still classified as a lower rank, but she brushes it aside, saying it is still impressive and that he is finally showing his true potential. After some time, curiosity surfaces and she asks about his divine spirit. Makoto freezes, unsure how to answer. Rinoa quietly suggests that she could appear, but Makoto hesitates, thinking it might cause complications. Choosing a safer explanation, he tells Ryuka that his divine spirit is simply shy, making introductions awkward. Ryuka looks confused and questions whether divine spirits can even behave that way. Rinoa mutters under her breath that she isn't shy, while Makoto simply tells her to relax. The mood is complicated. Kazane raises her hand, revealing her sacred stone, volunteering to introduce her spirit first. A soft glow appears, forming her upper-rank divine spirit, Wave, the wind spirit, who bows politely. Wave greets Makoto with calm courtesy, catching him off guard with how composed and graceful the spirit is. Kazane asks whether he intends to take a rank reassessment soon, but Makoto explains the scheduled date is still far off. She encourages him to keep training and suggests they challenge a C-rank dungeon together. He's hesitant, feeling the gap in their strength is still too wide and worried that Rinoa's identity might be exposed. Kazane only smiles, reminding him that he once led her when they were younger, and now it's her turn to lead. Her warm expression softens his doubts. He agrees, recalling a promise they made long ago. Deep down, he's uneasy about the risks, but he puts those thoughts aside, recognizing this as a chance to grow. Kazane brightens, excited that they can finally fight together. Meanwhile, in the Tokyo Hunter Association building, a meeting room full of high-ranking officials discusses a growing threat. A mage reports that these beings possess human-level intelligence and power at least equal to A rank, though until recently they remained hidden. Lately, multiple hunters have fallen to them, and their strength feels unreal, as if the battles were a nightmare. Kamuru, the association president, listens and jokes that if he were still in his prime, he would hunt them himself. Mishima, the gate management section chief, immediately scolds him, explaining this isn't the time for jokes. She states that every gate has been properly cleared, yet survivors insist these beings appear afterward. Another official adds that they only show up once the dungeon has already been completed, leaving the purpose of their actions unclear. Amagi enters, asking if the meeting has started. Mishima scolds him again, but he brushes it off with a light comment about her expression, earning a scoff. After hearing the report, he claims he might understand what's happening. Mishima warns him not to invent theories, but Amagi confidently insists he'll handle it. Kamuru trusts his instincts and gives approval. As Amagi leaves, he reflects on Makoto, realizing his earlier prediction about the boy might be correct. Later, at an abandoned building, Makoto and Kazane stand before a glowing C-rank dungeon gate. Kazane asks if he's nervous, and he admits he is, not just because of the demons inside, but also due to concerns about Rinoa's presence and how Kazane might react if the truth comes out. Sensing his tension, Kazane taps his chest lightly, reassuring him that she'll support him. Makoto smiles, thanking her, but insists he intends to prove he's not just someone who needs protecting. They step into the gate. The atmosphere is thick with demonic energy. 2 C-rank demons stand ahead, growling. Makoto prepares a shadow weapon, ready to assess the situation, but before he can act, a sharp blast of wind surges past him. Kazane is already charging ahead, her spear glowing as it pierces straight through a demon's head, destroying it in a clean strike. Makoto pauses, stunned, while Kazane's expression sharpens as she states that every demon needs to be eliminated. The intensity behind her words is stronger than before, almost intimidating. She turns toward him and says she senses another demonic presence. Her eyes narrow as she looks directly at him, asking where it's coming from. Panic flickers in Makoto's mind as he realizes she may have sensed Rinoa's energy from the beginning. He quickly deactivates his shadow weapon, letting the dark energy fade. Kazane scans the surroundings, explaining that she thought one of the demons might have escaped. Still, she insists the presence she felt was real and tells him to stay alert. Makoto nods, aware that her sensitivity to demonic energy is much sharper than he expected, and that she may have picked up traces of his shadow magic. Rinoa quietly confirms it, adding that Kazane's hatred for demons is serious. Makoto considers telling her the truth, but after seeing her earlier reaction, he decides to wait. The weight of that choice lingers in his chest as he follows her deeper into the dungeon. They reach the middle zone, where a swarm of demons erupts from the darkness. Kazane immediately activates her wind spirit's mantle, kicking the first demon flat and slicing it cleanly in half midair. Suspended in the air with wind swirling around her, she pierces another through the chest, then spins her spear in a full arc, cutting through several more before they can react. Makoto watches, thinking she might even be able to fly with that ability. He joins in, taking the ground demons while telling her to focus on the aerial ones. Blocking a claw strike with his arm, he cuts through a demon's chest and fires a blast of shadow energy through another. The demons here are clearly stronger than those he fought before, but he moves with more confidence, knowing he has grown as well. He shifts his weapon from a sword into a gun and starts firing, tearing holes through demons with explosive shots. Kazane glances down mid-battle and nearly breaks focus when she sees the weapon change shape. She watches briefly as he shifts it back into a sword and continues fighting, noting that she's never seen an ability like that. Within minutes, the swarm falls and the area goes silent once again. Kazane lands smoothly, resting her spear on her shoulder with a small smile, and tells him he's doing well against C-rank demons. He thanks her while trying not to sound overly proud. She tilts her head and notes that the unusual demonic energy she sensed earlier seems to have disappeared, so maybe it was nothing. He laughs it off, relieved that she hasn't figured out Rinoa's secret. A quiet voice in his mind questions whether he plans to keep hiding this forever, making him pause in thought. Rinoa isn't a normal demon, but a reliable partner, and part of him believes Kazane might understand if he explains everything. Yet her hatred toward demons makes him hesitate while he quietly asks himself what the right choice is. They continue deeper until reaching massive stone doors that mark the boss's chamber. Kazane points them out and asks if he's ready. He says he is, though his nerves say otherwise. She hints that he's anxious because this is a C-rank boss, and before he can respond, she reminds him that he isn't fighting alone. She raises her fist toward him, and he lightly bumps it, thanking her and deciding to talk to her after the battle. They push the doors open together. The atmosphere shifts immediately as a massive cyclops steps forward, its single eye glowing. Makoto feels the force of its presence just as Kazane activates her wind mantle again, declaring that no demon will be spared and rushing forward. The Cyclops raises its large wooden hammer, but Makoto binds it with shadow chains long enough for Kazane to land a direct hit to its torso. The monster breaks free and swings violently, forcing them both to evade. They regroup briefly before attacking again, moving in sync as they strike from both sides, shaking the entire chamber. Kazane targets its legs while Makoto shifts his weapon into a scythe, cutting at its knees. The Cyclops stumbles with another roar. Makoto restrains it once more and signals Kazane to finish it. She unleashes her divine power and uses Wind Shower, blasting the Cyclops backward. When the dust fades, the monster dissolves into dark mist. Kazane lands beside him, noting how well they fought together. Makoto agrees, but feels internally that it still isn't enough. Wave appears, praising their coordination, and Kazane laughs, saying their years of friendship are finally showing and that together they make a strong team. Makoto steps closer, saying there's something he needs to tell her before they move forward. His voice shakes slightly as he removes his glove and reaches for his sacred stone, ready to reveal Rinoa. Before he can continue, a crack splits the room as a dark gate forms midair, sending sparks across the ground. A clawed hand emerges, followed by a humanoid demon who walks out with a wide grin, saying he has finally found Makoto. The atmosphere thickens with dark energy, and Makoto realizes instantly that this enemy is different from the others. Kazane senses it too and pushes him back, asking if he is one of Megan. He laughs and introduces himself as Grom. Kazane acknowledges the rumors and tells Makoto that if they fight head-on, they won't stand a chance, insisting she will buy him time and he should run. He tries to argue, but her tone stops him, the same tone she used in the past when her brother made his final stand. She tells him it's enough if he survives and rushes forward. Her wind mantle surges as she strikes with everything she has, while Grom dodges casually, commenting on her speed as if she's moving slowly. She pushes harder, releasing more power, but he continues evading until he grabs her spear mid-attack and pulls her close. She barely escapes as his claws slice through the air where her neck was moments earlier. She calls for Wave, who appears in a flash of green light. They combine their power into a storm that tears through the chamber, while Makoto shields himself with his shadow weapon. When the storm settles, Grom stands untouched, saying her strongest attack feels no more than a breeze. Her grip tightens on her spear as he comments on her hatred for demons and asks if she understands why she feels that way. She demands an explanation, and he points at Makoto, saying he's the one she should be questioning because he made a pact with a demon. Kazane stares in disbelief and denies it, insisting Makoto would never betray humanity. Her voice wavers when he doesn't respond. She turns to him, demanding the truth. Makoto realizes he can't avoid it anymore. He removes his gloves, reveals his sacred stone, and calls Rinoa's name. Light bursts through the room as Rinoa materializes beside Makoto, her presence gentle yet unmistakably demonic. Kazane steps back, eyes widening as the truth finally sinks in. Makoto tries to explain that Rinoa is different, but Kazane's anger erupts before he can get more than a few words out. She raises her spear, shouting that his pact betrays everything they've fought for. Makoto pleads for her to listen, but she's too furious to hear anything. Her voice trembles with a sense of betrayal before she turns and hurls her spear at Grom, declaring she will take him down first. Grom catches the spear effortlessly and seizes Kazane by the neck before she can react. She hangs suspended, struggling for air. Makoto sends a shadow chain to restrain Grom's arm, yelling for him to stop. Grom laughs, tears the chain apart, and tosses Kazane aside. She crashes across the floor, and Makoto rushes forward, catching her before she slams into the wall. He lowers her gently, quietly promising to fix everything. Grom turns his attention to Rinoa with a sharp, knowing look, calling her a fallen angel in a tone mixed with mockery and curiosity. Her voice turns cold as she tells him she never wanted to hear him again. Makoto asks if they know each other, and Rinoa explains that after she first fell from grace, the Majin tried to claim her, but she escaped. Makoto clenches his jaw, realizing how close she came to joining them. Grom shrugs and says that to the Majin, she's still just another soldier waiting to be collected. Rinoa glares back, insisting she will never be one of them and that demons are her enemies. Grom laughs and asks if she doesn't want vengeance on the divine spirits who abandoned her. The words hit her deeply, and she recoils. He tells her that joining them would allow her to destroy anyone she wishes, divine spirits, humans, demons, whoever she chooses. He calls that true freedom. Rinoa's voice trembles as old pain resurfaces, but she can't bring herself to respond. Her hands shake and her eyes fill with tears. Makoto steps in front of her, forming his shadow blade. He tells Grom she's nothing like them. Grom raises a brow, asking what makes her different. Makoto says that if being a demon means destroying others for fun, then Rinoa is the opposite, brave, kind, and always the first to risk herself for others. He calls her his partner, someone who has fought alongside him through everything. Rinoa looks at him, trembling, a small glow returning to her eyes. Grom's expression twists with disgust as he calls their bond pathetic, saying emotions only make humans weak and that he will destroy both their bond and their lives. He raises his claws to strike, but Makoto prepares himself, shadows swirling around him. He declares that if protecting Rinoa makes him a fool, then he accepts that. Rinoa steps beside him, wings spreading as her resolve returns. Together, they face Grom, standing against a force that could erase them instantly. Grom grins, admitting the fight might be interesting. Makoto charges with shadows spiraling around his blade. Rinoa beside him, with light flaring, as the dungeon trembles with the start of their clash. Grom stretches casually, a smug grin on his face, while Rinoa warns Makoto that defeating him is impossible. She explains that his overconfidence may be their only way out and that escape should be their focus. Before she finishes, Grom dashes forward with impossible speed. Makoto barely raises his sword before Grom disappears and reappears behind him, delivering a kick that launches him into the wall. Makoto coughs from the impact as Grom approaches calmly, enjoying the fight. Makoto quickly summons Shadowbind, chaining Grom's arm and leg before shifting his weapon into a gun and firing shadow bullets. Grom breaks free without effort, catches the bullets midair, and drops them to the floor with a mocking smirk. He remarks that it would have been more fun to throw them back, and taunts Makoto for running out of tricks. The taunts make Makoto realize he's being toyed with. While the fight continues, Kazane slowly regains consciousness. Her vision clears just enough to see Makoto, bloodied and struggling, still fighting Grom head-on, with Rinoa supporting him. Her heart sinks at how injured he is, and even deeper when she sees he truly has made a pact with a demon. She clutches his coat, overwhelmed by confusion and disbelief as she wonders how everything reached this point. Grom delivers another brutal kick to Makoto's side, then follows with a strike to his stomach, calling him weak and insisting his efforts mean nothing. Makoto collapses with a groan, but forces himself back to his feet, shaking and short of breath, refusing to stay down. He admits that he is weak and cannot match Grom, but still refuses to give up. Kazane freezes as his voice triggers a memory. She recalls the week after her brother's death, when Makoto entered her room to tell her that her mother was worried because she hadn't eaten in days. She told him that nothing mattered anymore, and continuing felt pointless. Makoto quietly sat beside her, patting her back and telling her not to give up, because surrendering would mean losing everything for real. He told her he understood the pain, because he felt the same way when he lost his parents. He had learned that those who survived still had a path ahead of them, and the only way to find it was to keep moving forward. That memory brings tears to Kazane's eyes, because it was Makoto's words that gave her strength back then. Snapping back to the present, she sees him struggling to block Grom's next strike, only to be overpowered and thrown aside once more. Grom taunts him, saying spirit alone will not save him. Despite his trembling body and bruised hands, Makoto rises again, glaring up at Grom with that same stubborn fire. Kazane grips her coat tighter, realizing that this is exactly who he has always been, someone straightforward, strong-willed, and relentless no matter how many times he falls. Even if he made a pact with a demon, his heart remains unchanged. She finally screams for him not to give up, her voice cutting through the chaos. Makoto looks back at her, and her small but confident smile reminds him she still believes in him. Encouraged, he smiles back just as Grom charges again, warning him not to get distracted. Makoto meets the strike head-on, blocking it with his sword and catching Grom off guard with his sudden strength. Sparks fly as the two lock eyes, and Makoto's thoughts drift briefly to Kazane's pain and everything she has endured. That faith fuels him, pushing him to move faster. He leaps into the air to avoid Grom's next attack, swinging his sword in one clean motion, silently promising himself he cannot fall here. The air whistles as the blade slices past, and though Grom tilts his head to dodge, the edge still grazes his face. A thin line of blood falls to the ground, silencing the battlefield. Makoto lands and steps back, breath heavy but controlled, while Grom slowly licks the blood from his cheek with a twisted smile. Instead of rage, he appears entertained and says the fight has gone on long enough. The atmosphere shifts as he gathers dark energy, forming a swirling storm of black magic that makes the ground tremble. He calls it a parting gift for their afterlife, and even Rinoa and Kazane feel the crushing weight of it. Makoto quivers slightly, struggling to comprehend how one being can hold so much power. Grom turns his gaze toward Rinoa and tells her to return to his side if she wants her friends to live. He implies Makoto's time is over, but she looks at Makoto, standing firm despite the pain, and his quiet nod tells her to stay strong. She turns back to Grom and refuses to submit. His smile fades, and he unleashes a massive surge of dark power called Doom of the Underworld. The attack rushes forward like a tidal wave, drowning everything in roaring darkness. Despair sets in, and even Makoto feels his resolve flicker. Then a bright yellow light erupts between them, opening a massive void that swallows Grom's attack entirely. In the same instant it appeared, the light vanishes and silence returns. Everyone is frozen, even Grom, staring in disbelief. Makoto demands to know what just happened. Before he can react, a hand rests calmly on his shoulder. A voice tells Grom that his actions will not be allowed to destroy the hope of a brighter future. Makoto turns to see a tall, confident man standing behind him with an aura that radiates authority. The stranger introduces himself as Amagi and asks Grom if he wants to fight him as well. He tells Makoto he fought well and that he can leave the rest to him. As Amagi steps forward, the air grows heavy with pressure, revealing the presence of an S-rank hunter. Grom acknowledges his strength, but speaks with arrogance. Amagi casually tosses his drink into a portal like discarded trash and says he is stronger than Grom, clearly provoking him. The taunt works, and as Grom's anger flares, Amagi smiles and says he needs to repay him for injuring his junior hunter while unveiling his special class divine spirit, Nova. Grom crouches with a grin and lunges with a punch capable of flattening a tank, but Amagi catches it effortlessly. He smirks and tells him not to touch his face, then throws him aside with ease. Before Grom hits the ground, a spatial rift opens behind him, flinging him back toward Amagi, who meets him with a punch to the stomach that sends him crashing into the wall. The impact cracks the ground, and even the dungeon trembles. Rinoa explains that divine power works especially well against demons, but admits Amagi's power is beyond normal, almost like a cheat code. Grom summons dark energy and launches it at Amagi, who doesn't move. Instead, he releases Sky Piercer, which absorbs and compresses the attack before detonating inside the weapon, shattering one of Grom's arms. Makoto watches in shock, realizing Amagi isn't just strong, he is overwhelmingly unfair in power. Amagi laughs, saying Grom barely avoided serious damage and should start using his full strength, only provoking him further. Before the fight escalates, another demon appears and stops Grom's next attack. Everyone freezes as Grom recognizes him as Fine and demands to know why he's there. Fine warns that using his power in that state will destroy him, then turns to Amagi, stating that neither of them would win easily if they fought. Amagi agrees, and Fine declares the fight a draw, ordering Grom to retreat. Grom protests, but falls silent under Fine's glare. Before stepping through the gate, he threatens to return and make them regret everything, then disappears, leaving an eerie quiet behind. Amagi breaks the silence by asking if the demons are gone. Makoto steps forward, bows, and thanks him for the help, but Amagi dismisses it and says they can talk on the way back. During their walk, Makoto nervously asks if Amagi had always suspected he had a connection to a demon. Amagi takes a sip of his drink and says he did, explaining that it's why Grom was following him. He then turns to Makoto and Kazane, asking if they finally made peace, making both of them freeze. Kazani says that Makoto hasn't changed, but when she looks at Rinoa, she adds that trusting her is a different issue. Rinoa shrugs and says Kazani can believe whatever she wants. The air grows tense, and Makoto panics. Try to calm them both down. Yugo watches quietly before noting that Rinoa, as a former spirit with traits close to a demon, may play an important role later. He then reassures Makoto that he accepts both him and Rinoa as human, which makes Makoto feel relieved and grateful. Fueled by that reassurance, Makoto runs ahead, declaring that he will become stronger than he is now. His sudden confidence catches everyone off guard. Yugo smiles and rushes past him with lightning speed, saying he looks forward to fighting beside him one day. Later, a plane lands on a skyscraper rooftop to pick Yugo up after his report. He tells Kamuru that the demon threat will stay quiet for now. Kamuru thanks him and says trusting him was the right choice before mentioning Himuro Yusi, a former A-rank hunter who went rogue. Yugo remembers him as the one who caused chaos after being dismissed. Kamuru explains that he was taken into custody but disappeared without a trace. Yugo sighs, saying the situation is messy, but he cannot take care of it right now since he has other priorities. He promises to recommend 2 strong hunters and send their data later. Kamuru agrees and says he will review them soon. After ending the call, Kamuru turns to a man sitting nearby, apologizing for the delay and asking him to continue. The man introduces himself as Weisugi Oi, a former disciple of Himuro Yusi and a current A-rank hunter, saying that he plans to stop Yusi once and for all. The mood shifts again, signaling the beginning of a new arc with even bigger chaos and stronger opponents, like the story just unlocked its next boss. Years earlier, Weisugi Uji trained under his master, Himuro Yusi, a man known for being both a genius and a problem. Uji declares he wants to become the best hunter and take his duties seriously, but Yusi brushes it off, calling him too stiff and saying he doesn't want a boring disciple. With a playful push to Uji's back, Yusi tells him to loosen up and enjoy being a hunter, reminding him that not everyone gets the opportunity. Uji insists that responsibility should come first, but Yusi cuts him off, saying that if Uji wants to stay a student, he needs to stop chasing perfection and follow his own path instead of becoming a puppet of the association, which he calls useless. Uji eventually nods, but admits he could never be like Yusi, which makes the man laugh and ask if Uji is mocking him, sounding like someone who just won an argument in a flashback scene. Back in the present, Makoto and Kazani jog around a pond, while a man on a bench watches and wonders if they are training for the next big tournament. Kazani brings up the flower shop Makoto visited after their dungeon expedition, and Makoto explains that it was because Rinoa likes pretty things, adding that she makes the room feel brighter. A passerby wonders how many laps they have done since they've been running for a long time. Kazani asks what else Rinoa likes besides flowers, and Makoto hesitates, saying she should ask Rinoa directly. Overhearing this, Rinoa flatly says she has no particular preferences. Kazani tells her to be more friendly since they are on the same team, but Rinoa reminds her that she was the one who said she didn't trust her. Kazani grows frustrated and raises her voice, saying she dislikes Rinoa's attitude. Makoto tries to calm them down, but both tell him to stay out of it, leaving him stranded awkwardly. As they continue running, they overhear a couple discussing a criminal hunter who escaped from prison. The woman sounds worried while her boyfriend suggests they go home. Makoto asks Kazani if she knows anything about it, and she explains that the escapee is Himuro Yuzi, a former A-rank hunter who is incredibly skilled. She wonders what could make someone like that turn into a criminal. Makoto's phone suddenly buzzes, and Kazani's does too. They check and see an emergency summon from the Hunter Association. Kazani says that it looks like both of them have been summoned, and Makoto assumes it is probably due to Yugo's recommendation. She replies that they should head over and find out what is happening. They arrive at the Tokyo Hunter Association building and are guided to conference room number 5. A man enters, greeting them and introducing himself as Hayashi from the Abnormal Measures Division. He thanks them for coming and explains that, based on Yugo's recommendation, the two of them are being entrusted with the search for Himuro UCI. Both of them are shocked, having not expected a mission of this scale. Hayashi explains that while the police are investigating, the association must take independent action as well. He says UCI may be hiding near the gate where he escaped, and their role is to investigate the area. Makoto expresses concern about how dangerous the assignment sounds, but Hayashi reassures him, saying they will not be going alone since an A-rank hunter will accompany them. The door opens and Kazani freezes when she sees Uesugi Uji walk in. Uji greets her, saying it has been a while since they last worked together. Hayashi confirms that the team is now complete and steps out, telling them to review the mission documents. Kazani smiles, saying it really has been a long time since they cleared a gate together, and Uji agrees. Makoto watches him in admiration, remembering that Uji is the only prodigy of their generation to reach a rank. Makoto introduces himself respectfully, saying it is an honor to work with him, but Uji does not shake his hand. Instead, he states that he was Himuro UCI's former disciple and has no intention of teaming up. Both Makoto and Kazani are caught off guard as Uji picks up a tablet, saying that finding UCI is his personal responsibility and that the two of them will only get in his way. Kazani argues that teamwork is necessary, but Uji insists he does not need help and walks out. Makoto tries to stop him, suggesting that they divide tasks. He and Kazani could handle the demons inside the gate, while Uji focuses on locating UCI. Uji pauses, giving him a cold stare, but Makoto continues, saying they are still hunters and cannot ignore the mission. Kazani agrees, saying they will contribute however they can. Uji sighs and tells them they can do whatever they want, making it clear he will proceed alone. He leaves, ignoring Makoto's attempt to coordinate. Makoto turns to Kazani, worried, but she tells him to follow Uji for now, saying they will figure things out later, like every dysfunctional team that eventually comes together. That night, an abandoned school sits silent, the barrier surrounding it shattered. 3 middle school boys sneak inside, talking about claiming the building as their territory. One suggests dividing the floors, while another says the school is too large to control. As they walk, a flashlight beam reveals sharp ice spikes blocking a classroom. They wonder if it is a dungeon gate and why it's frozen. Suddenly, one boy falls silent. The others turn and see him frozen solid. Panic hits, but the ice spreads and traps them as well. A shadowed figure steps out from behind the ice and snaps it apart, the frozen boys shattering with it. The man mutters about the inconvenience of leaving corpses behind, then turns to the gate and seals it shut with ice. With cold eyes, he declares that he will take revenge on the association, believing his actions justified. It is Himuro UCI, the former A-rank hunter,